There's no logic.
Nope.
Hi, everybody.
Hey.
Welcome to the Clinical Cookout.
Hey, y'all.
What's up, y'all?
We don't have nobody on yet, but
Nope.
Oh, I also had something to bring up too, as far as what's it called? The 50-50 conversation is driving Twitter crazy right now.
what
Girl,
conversation?
that conversation and this new Color Purple film being anti-black man, I'm like, if they don't, I
Not
can't.
everything is a think piece. Like,
It
why
is
does
not.
everything have to be a think piece?
It is not.
Well,
Okay, so what's the 50-50? What's the 50-50?
So people. Well, first of all, I think there's two things happening at once. People are trying to compare, like Savannah James and how she's like behind the scenes, a really good mom, like just focused on her family and stuff like that. Not she did have a business, but I'm not really sure if she still has it, and then compared to Gabriel Union, who goes 50-50 with Dwayne Wade. And people are like, oh, well, he cheated on her, this and that. Why would she be going 50-50? And a guy said that, I seen a guy who tweeted, he was like, some of y'all is going 50-50. He's like, so stop trying to play like y'all are not helping in y'all households. And I was like, right. The economy is high. I am not going to do that.
60-40.
Right. But I'm not judging nobody. Like, do what you need to do for your household. Like, if you need to go 50-50 with your partner, go 50-50 with your partner. I don't see nothing wrong with it. If that's what Gabriel Union is doing, that's what she's doing. But they're trying to compare it as one woman being better than the other. And that is where I have the issue at. Nobody's better than someone else because they're choosing to run their households differently. That's where I'm at.
Yo, it's literally nothing wrong with it. And people got to understand, if you understand math, Gabrielle Union been married before. She was paying 100% in that one. So she doing better now. 50% is better than 100. And she has somebody brought up the fact that it comes from that, even for Black people, when they get successful, there's always this fear that it can be taken away. So she's that fear of, I have to be able to get things done. I have to be able to pay for things. I have to be able to do this. Is there, is present, even for people who are successful. So I don't understand why people have a problem with how other people run their household. I just don't get it.
I think that
I don't get it either.
a part of it is our culture, is because there's this new wave of confusion. Some women are like, oh, independent. And then other women are like, no, you know what I mean? I like to be kept. And then other women are like, well, I want to go 50-50. And somebody's making somebody wrong in every single case. In every single case, you could say, well, that's not right. Well, that's not right. Well, you should do this. But nobody's realizing that there's differences for a reason, because we're not all made the same.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And if we were all made the same, we wouldn't get married and we wouldn't be together.
Mm-mm.
So you marry somebody that compliments you. Like me and my husband, we don't do the whole like, oh, I'm paying half on the rent this month and I'm paying half of this and that. It's just the money goes, whatever gets paid, it gets paid. It is what it is. We ain't calculating who's doing 50-50, 60-40. Like, it's just, we doing it. We just got to get it.
KB.
KB said she want 100%.
One of them.
But you know what makes the conversation harder? Like, Suge, you just broke down the different types of women. But here's the problem. We've talked about this on the show before. Men make it confusing. I made a video about this. They make it confusing because on the one hand, you got men who are like bigging up when Boosie came out with the Independent Woman song, IND, like you want an independent woman. But on the other hand, you want a traditional woman, a submissive woman, and then you asking what you bringing to the table. So please let it be known what you want. I keep reiterating, set your boundaries, your limits, what you desire in the beginning, communicate that so people can decide if that's what they willing to rock with.
I don't think it's only men making it confusing. I think people, because every man ain't out here singing Boosie. You see some men that want.
No, I know that, but you left the men off. You only address the women.
Oh, okay.
That's talking about it. That's honestly, that's why I saw talking about it was women. They were holding up this hierarchy that one woman was better than the other because of, okay, well, I don't want to pay 50-50, so I'm better, or I chose to be in the background. and to support my husband or support my partner. So I'm better because I don't have to go 50-50. When actual reality, you can still be a trash human being. Doesn't matter if you're going 50-50 or not.
Yeah.
So I don't understand, like, where is this specifically in our culture? Where is this coming from? Like, why is it always such a comparison? Like, I don't like that. Like, we're supposed to stick together. How can we be a community if every single thing that we do is either a think piece or now all of a sudden somebody's better than somebody else because they 50-50 or they traditional?
And why is 50-50 only focused on the finances? Like, are we also going 50-50 in other areas? Are we 50-50 parenting? Are we 50-50 house cleaning? Are we 50-50 doing everything else? Like, it's like that woman who is being kept, what is she doing in that house? If she's just being kept and not doing anything, they got maids, cooks, butlers, nannies, and she's not doing a thing. Okay, that's fine if they cool with that. But for those women who do keep up the house and take care of the kids and cook and clean and do all that stuff, I don't think people realize how much those type of things actually cost. And if you outsource that, like hire a butler, a maid, a cook, and a secretary, it's some monetary value to that. We just don't treat it like such.
Well, I'm tired of doing chores. So
You got 5 kids. Why are you doing a chore?
Because that's what those are. Those are chores. When you got to do the laundry, those are chores.
No, she's saying the kid's supposed to be doing it. Ration out the work.
Hey, Christina and
Hey, Helen and Christina.
Hey, Helen and Christina.
We're talking about the 50-50 conversation.
It's just a fun conversation.
I've seen this dude say, "You wonder why your woman's so tired? She tired of doing chores." And I was like, "Me, I'm tired of doing chores," because he was like, the laundry, the sweeping, the mopping, the dusting, those are chores, especially after you get off of work. And even if you have help, still it ends up being like, at least sometimes seemingly, it ends up being like, dang, it's on her. It's always it's on the woman, because in some people's mind that's your job, right? And it can be your job, but it can also be somebody else's. It can also be your man's job too. So but all them chores make you pissed off. That's why you walk around with an attitude all day, because you got to do chores all day. Imagine when you ask a kid to go clean out the tub. They mad. So if you ask a woman to go do all of that, you mad. That's why somebody always got an attitude.
You right, because my back be hurting, child. I'd be like, you know what?
But we know where that stems from. We know where that stems from. We're not about to sit up here and pretend like we don't know where the idea stems from, that is the woman's role. We know exactly where that comes from. We know what society we living in. Yes, all those things are always put to the women. Taking care of the kids, nurturing. Women are nurturing. Women take care of the house and make a house a home. That falls to the woman in those relationships. Men are what? Protectors, providers. When you do that, then people just play their role and their role only. And now you got tired ass women that ain't trying to give it up at the end of the night because my back broke from bending over the tub.
My back broke from bending over the tub.
Just saying.
I'd have bending over the tub.
I know.
But they got one of those like Swiffer things now. You ain't got to. I gotta find it.
Yeah, but do they scrub like they need to scrub? Because I saw one, I started to get it, and I was like, it don't feel the same as the scrub. Like, I still use a regular mop. Like, I've got a mop. Like, I can't do no Swiffer Swift.
Yeah, I have one of those squeegee things, but girl, I don't even be scrubbing right. So I'm like, well, I gotta depend on something else because it's gonna be half-assed.
Listen, all of these conversations, correct. My whole thing is why we still talking about these things. Like there are so many other, even in relationships, there's so many other things that that are important to discuss. But we focused on 50-50. Who get the bigger piece of chicken? Will you make me a sandwich at 3:00 in the morning?
Actually, nobody talking about the bigger piece of chicken in 2023. I'll be rolling.
You think not? That is definitely still a conversation that come up every now and then. Do you feed your kids first or your husband or man first? Like these are legit things that people still talking about. I'm like, what is wrong with y'all?
That one is true. I be hearing that still.
Yeah.
Feed this person first, feed that person first. Who y'all feed first?
I feed me and my husband at the same time. I make their plate first, but I only do that not because I want to serve them. I do it because I don't want my food to be cold when it's my turn. If I make my plate at the same time, it's gonna be cold. So I make all theirs, They start, and then I make mine. It's nice, hot, and fresh.
You
That's
sound
what I
like
do.
me. I do that same thing. I do that same thing. And sometimes Elijah will make the plates. He'll tell me, don't worry about it. I'll make my own plate. You good. So I mean, why is this a conversation? Like, huh? And he
Somebody
always
on
say
Twitter
feed the
was
kids first anyway, because they act like they dying.
Somebody on Twitter was like, "Can we wrap these conversations about relationships up in the community? Like, there's so many other things to be talking about. Let's just wrap it up."
Listen,
Yeah. Speaking of other things to be talking about, there's so many mental health things to talk about, y'all. Do y'all have any questions? We got some people on here. Y'all go ahead and send y'all questions. We just, shooting the shit right now, but send y'all's questions. We need to give y'all some answers.
but yeah, that's what's been going on. Oh wait, Keish, did you see the other thing on TikTok? Because you watch tonight's conversations, you follow.
Well, hold on. Mika actually said that we feed the kiddos first.
That's right, Mika. Just feed the kids because they act like they starving.
They need to be on a Feed the Children commercial.
What?
Y'all remember Feed the Children commercials?
No. Am I that young? Am I the baby again?
Yep, you the baby again.
No, because they be out. They still be out. Where they got
I don't watch TV like that.
You see the little baby with the big belly and they malnutrition. They got the fly in their eyeball, and it's like feed the children. And y'all seen them commercials?
Not the fly.
Yes, I have, and I knew that's what you were going to describe. I'm done.
They do. They be trying to be like, send us money so we can get a kid.
Why are you like this? Why are you like this?
Like, bruh.
He said fly in the eyeball.
Like, that's not funny.
Wait, it was a comedian. Was it Steve Harvey? He was like, y'all seen the commercial where he got the fly in the eyeball, and you like blink, just blink, so the fly will go away.
Yeah, but
I don't know. But
Helen
want to know how it makes you feel when your partner thinks they should eat first.
I ain't got a partner. I ain't got a partner like that, so I don't know.
I will speak from a single person perspective. Yes, Christina, fly in the eyeballs because she's a fool.
She got
She's stupid.
Fly in the eyeball. Like, where did that? Anyway, okay.
Because she's a fool. I will speak from a single person perspective. If a person believes that they should eat first, to me, I feel like I don't do hierarchy. I don't do ego. To me, that's an ego-driven thing. Mm-hmm. Who do you think you are? Like, I don't even think in that, even for myself, I don't even think in that context. Like, you should feed me first. I that's what I deserve, or that's like, no, like, I want somebody who is just going to be loving and caring and not ego-driven. Like, I don't even know where that would even come from. So to me, it's a turnoff. To me, it's a turnoff, and I don't date men like that.
It comes from the patriarchy. You know exactly where it comes from.
But does it? Like, who made that up? who made that up? Like,
I don't even think it was only patriarchy. I think a lot of women uphold these things too. And I don't think it's necessarily nothing wrong with it if that's how your household functions. Mm-hmm. But I do know that there's some women who think like that too. Like, my husband eats first, he gets the big piece of chicken. That be having me laughing. I mean, I might want a big piece of chicken, but my husband eats first, he gets the big piece of chicken. But I think that they're giving out the big piece of chicken because men are inherently supposed to be bigger and like they need more. I don't know where that came from, but it's not only men who are like, I'll get the big piece of chicken beating on their chest. Some people really do, like, they really do feel like this.
Yeah, women uphold it too. Women uphold that too. And if that, like you said, if that's how your household functions, that's fine. But that doesn't necessarily mean that man feels he should be eating first. It means that's just how y'all operate. But for a man to innately think this is what I deserve, that's different. I can't deal with somebody like that.
I want to add something. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, that's what I was going to say. It depends on like why they think they should eat first. Like, if that's how you've always done, like if you've always fed them first since you first met them, since you got married, whatever the case is, and they expect it because it's something that you've conditioned, that's different than them coming straight in like, I'm the man, you feed me first, you do this, you do that. Like, it's different. But again,
they might come from that. If that's what they saw in their parents, if that was that's how they grew up, it's like that's what they think is correct. Like, my mama always fed my daddy first, so the man's supposed to eat first. That's what they think. So
no, I'm saying my feelings about it would be different if they come straight in the relationship. Because the question is, how does it make you feel when they expect this? If they come straight in the relationship to me saying, when you cook, you need to feed me first because that's what I came from. That's how my family is. I'm not going to respond very well to that. I'm not going to like that. But if it's something that I naturally do and have started to do and have conditioned this person for years, that when I cook, I feed you first and they expect it, I'm not going to be upset about that because like that's on me. Like I've started that and they expect it because of that, if that makes sense.
I think I believe in throwing in a little bit of confusion here, like in the relationship. Like, I don't mind making Abraham's plate, and I don't mind if he eats first. But both of us typically just make the kids' plate first. But sometimes I make my plate first, dang it, because I'm hungry. If I've been doing all the chores, then a lot of times I'm like, I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna eat before the kids eat because during my meal, they're gonna need something to drink. Somebody gonna drop their fork. Somebody gonna spill their rice. And so sometimes I've sat down and eaten, and I'm like, and as long as I keep it to where you don't have expectations, you ain't gonna be disappointed.
Ooh, I like that.
I like that. Never expect it, just appreciate it when it's done.
Yeah.
Yep, that's it. But I think that what I was going to add to it was about, so typically when I get in the mindset, if a man said he should eat first, I typically, my thoughts go straight to leaderships because men automatically believe that they should be put in leadership roles, so they should be first because they're the leader. In my mind, I think that women can be leaders too, and real leaders lead from behind. So if you really wanted to be the leader, in my mind, you would let everybody else eat first, last. If that's how you want to board your shit. But that's just me. That's just me and how I think.
Helen said it. She said they believe if he's the breadwinner, he eats first.
Well, Mika said oh, okay.
But I don't think I've been around Suge and her husband, and I know what Abe brings to the table. He's never been a dude who I feel like, first of all, Rashawn ain't gonna have it anyway, but he's never been a dude, at least from when I've been around, like, oh, you gotta serve me. Like, know when a man has that type of vibe and that energy. And Abe does not give that type of energy. He's not the type to be like, you better serve me, because I'm sure she would not get clean off.
Clean between the washer and dryer.
Right. So I don't
love language
from Marcus. I don't get that vibe from them. You know what I mean? I don't know Elijah very well, but I don't get that vibe from Marcus and Abe when I'm around them. So
no, Abe's love language is acts of service, but it's not like that. Like he appreciates, like, a good back rub or something like that, or I'm tired, or can you do something for me? Which when I do it, then it's appreciated because that's his love language.
Right.
I appreciate that. I don't like to be bossed around. That my biggest, if you want to break friendship with me or break a relationship with me, boss me around. Tell me what to do, because you can't control me and I control me. So to get with somebody who will be like, this is your duty, I'll be like, I'm sorry, like that don't work for me. So I think that it also goes with getting with a partner who shares your expectations. So Abraham never had that expectation, and so he can't be disappointed when it doesn't happen. But we just function like that.
Yep, that's it.
That's it.
And I've been in a relationship where that was an expectation for me. It was an expectation for me to cook. It was an expectation for me to care for his children and stuff like that. And I said, bitch, who? you clearly don't know me. This ain't gonna work. But it's okay to, and I think it's also okay to understand when somebody doesn't work for you, and that you don't have to change yourself if you're not willing to compromise in that relationship, and then that's just not you. We had to go. We had to separate because I wasn't going to be that. Now, granted, he's married and happy, and he got the person, but they fit together because that's what she does.
Yeah,
that's just not what I do.
I told Elijah my flaws very early on. I said, look, you either accept them because they may never change, or we ain't right for each other, because this is who I am. It may never. And I think that's where people get hung up in relationships. If the person maybe is not meeting the expectations in the beginning, they feel like, oh, but over time they might change. Oh, but what if they don't? That's what I always ask couples. What if they don't? Would you still be with this person if they are the exact same person? Well, their habits are the same 5-10 years down the road. Can you deal with that? Because it might not change. I told them, don't set no high expectations. I ain't the one. Keep them low.
What are the things?
Surprised.
What are the things, like, with people, like we know people can change, right? People can change over time, but there are some things about people that don't change. So like in y'all's experience, because you know people expect, like you said, like later on maybe they'll do this, maybe they'll do that. Like what are some of the things about people that are not very likely to change over time?
What are some of the things that they're not likely to change over time?
Mm-hmm.
Their core belief system.
Mm-hmm.
Core belief system.
Core belief.
What's that mean?
Ha! Well, the core belief system is a set of beliefs that have been embedded innately. They come from the way you were raised or the behavior that was modeled to you growing up, and they come from your social conditioning, which is the way that you've been raised, basically.
Basically.
So an example of core beliefs. I think that women should serve men, or I think that men should serve women, because it could be vice versa. We got some subservient men out there too. That's a core belief system. And no matter what, if you're in a relationship with this person and they feel as if they're tired, in their core beliefs, in your partner, this core belief system is, well, women should serve men. Even if you're tired, my core beliefs say you should still be doing your job because this is a part of your duty.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yep. And you have a lot of couples come into, you know, like say couples therapy who have those interpersonal distress related problems because people are not talking about how their core beliefs maybe can be contradictory to each other.
Mm-hmm. Yep. This is why I am adamant with couples who come in for any type of premarital work or like proactive couples who want tools in the beginning. I do a values discussion session that we talking about core beliefs, values, how were your boundaries growing up? Did you have boundaries with your family? Did y'all not have boundaries? Was it just open? Like they need to know that because that informs how you argue with somebody. It informs your style of conflict, your communication style, your romantic style. It literally informs all of that, what you believe, what you think at your core, and what you saw. I always talk about, what did you see with your parents? Or if your parents weren't together, did you see your mom or your dad date? How did you, like, what did you see? What did you pick up from that? Because people don't know, you're going to repeat what you saw because it's familiar to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You may repeat what you saw. Some people do exactly the opposite.
Some people do the opposite.
There's a show on Showtime, I guess, with a new doctor who's a couples therapist. Have y'all seen like some of her clips?
Yes.
And she talks about like, I guess she's like starting to bring like race, class, privilege into these, you know, conversations. Mm-hmm. And literally those are things that affect your marriage or your relationship. And they could be factors that can affect it. And those are conversations that she said typically wasn't talked about before, but now like how we are today and everything's kind of racially and politically charged is starting to be a conversation. So some of those things could impact you.
Class definitely does impact. If you grew up with a scarcity mindset where y'all was surviving and you end up with somebody who didn't have that, y'all gonna look at money different. You're gonna look at everything different.
We went on a cruise and like just recently, right? And my husband and I'm gonna address what you said in a second, Christina. My husband and I we're frugal. Like we are the people that are like, we do not blow money. You know what I mean? Like we have a value system where nobody's coming to save us. So we can't just be like, Mom, can you pay my bills? Because it don't work like that for us. And our core beliefs match up so well in that that it threw other people off. They were like, I don't understand why you're not willing to, you know, spend money on this or spend money on that. And our core beliefs were, if I become poor again, like life is going to suck for me as it did before. And we're not willing to go back to that. So I think when your core beliefs match up, it's a great match.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's why you take time to get to know people before instead of trying to rush into it. And I mean, Christina has a question about something related to rushing into things, right? So there's a trend of men asking women for money only after days or weeks of knowing them. A lot of women have shared this in a dating Facebook group. When did this become okay? Have we heard of any of this foolishness? What does this say about men? This should be a mental
and now it should be a mental disorder.
Asking for money.
I've never heard of this. I've never heard of this.
I mean, it's not unheard of. People
I
have
know they're doing it. I mean, it may be
Yeah.
a small percentage, but there are some men that are doing that because they feel like their time may be wasted. They feel like, okay, well, I done spent, or spent this time. Like now, I need to get reparations from my time spent.
See, we can talk about my core beliefs now. I was raised by men, my uncles primarily, who literally raised me to believe a man should never be asking you for money. So that would mess me up. Like that is a core belief for me. A man is never to ask a woman for money.
Why?
It's a core belief. My uncle said a man's pride will not allow him to ask you for money. If he asks you for money, his pride is gone. Something is amiss, and you need to. Now, granted, I take that with a grain of salt. Like now, me and my husband, if payday for him is down the road and he needs something, it's not an ask. It's a what you need. I'm going to the store. But for a man that I just met, that would be the end of the relationship if we just met and you asked me for money. No,
I got
not a man that I don't know. Not a man that I don't know. Absolutely
no.
not.
I could have known you for 3 months. No.
I got a funny story. So back in my ratchet days, there was a
Yesterday.
Not yesterday.
Hey, look, don't act like we all had ratchet days, okay?
Yeah. I was dating this it wasn't even like dating. Like there was this dude I was entertaining and he went to jail. And he was calling me like, yo, I need $500. And I was like, I have never
in my life.
Mm-hmm. And first of all, he was having his cousin call me, and then like you know how they call you collect, and then like it's a jail call, and they're on the phone. And he was like, I need $500. I was like, I don't have it. No. And he just couldn't fathom that I wasn't giving it to him. It had only been a few weeks of us like really entertaining each other all together because I had a boyfriend. But it was also like, why are you?
She snuck that in there. That's the ratchet sugar I remember.
I mean, I'm just saying, like, this was something that happened to me. And I just think it's funny. I thought it was hilarious that this man would be like, basically, yo, you got $500? And so, I mean, men do it. They really, and I don't think there's nothing wrong with it. It's just that you don't get to ask me. It depends on the woman. You just ask the wrong one.
It ain't even the $500 that's the problem.
And women do it?
Huh?
Men and women do that.
I'm not asking no man I just met for no money.
Women are worse with it. Maybe not you. Yeah. I mean, you might be different, but women are way worse. Like they'll ask a man for money right off the bat. Like I just don't.
I think that women ask men for money right off the bat is because of the way the system is set up. And men pride themselves on being financial providers and protectors. And so when women engage in that behavior, now men get mad because women are doing it. So It's like, which one you want? You don't want us to do it? Hey, I don't ask men for money, but if they offer it.
If offering it is different.
I ain't denying it.
But Sugar, I'm still stuck. He y'all, $500. I'm thinking that this had to be to bail him out, maybe. $500.
No, it wasn't to bail him out. He just needed it.
He needed it on his books. Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay. I'm not even concerned about the $500. If I just met you and you go to jail, that's the end. Jail, I can't do. I ain't even accepting the collect call. That costs money.
Well, that's another lie. That's for another lie. That's a hot topic. Let's talk about that.
To ride or die in a few weeks.
I done did some shady, some stupid shit. Not $500 though. Hell no.
I mean, hey, I got cussed out when I said no too. Like clean, cussed out.
Like who are you? Like who do you think you entitled to my money and you in prison right now?
I mean, it was a good long cuss out too. I had to hang up. Like my friend was like,
"How for me to part with $5? $500? $500?
Yeah, I mean, I think as you mature, like I don't think older grown women is gonna ask you for well, I don't know. Child.
Yes, they will.
They will.
They will.
Yeah.
Do it.
Listen. People have arguments about this all over social media, and they like, listen. If you gonna ask me for sex after the first time you take me out, well, you gotta pay to play. Like,
now
you have that mindset.
Honestly, I can more so understand that as opposed to you just outright asking for money with nothing attached to it. Like this man ain't asked you for nothing and you just asking for money to see what he says. I don't like the whole testing people thing. Like that's
Right.
not an adult thing to do, to be testing people.
So you know what? Let's talk about that, because there's a lot of mental health stuff that's with that. And I'm glad you mentioned that, so we can kind of roll into our mental health, right?
Wait, before you do that, hey B.
Hey B.
Hey,
B. She's here with me in good old Kansas.
I can't take the money because I feel like he's locking me into him. If I don't want to answer your call, I don't want to feel obligated. And there is a certain obligation when it comes to taking money. Like, okay, now you feel like you're obligated to me because I'm giving you something. Like Keisha always says, relationships are transactional.
I owe you. I cannot feel like I owe somebody. I can't.
But I do. I want to talk about how
Testing.
was it Amber that just said that
Ashley.
or testing. Ashley just said people testing other people in relationships. So I do know that some people get tested in relationships, like, oh, such and such is calling you, answer the phone. And then when you answer it, now you're in trouble. Or this person asked you for this. Let me see if you're going to give it to them. And then now whenever you give it to them, now I'm mad at you and now the relationship is over. And there is a certain amount of ego attached that you would test somebody to see their loyalty or love for you. And there's a certain amount of narcissism with that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I absolutely agree. And I mean, I can understand it when we were younger. Well, not even then, but when we were younger, like high school, we were young-minded. So people doing these little tests here and there to see if the person really cared about them. We were young. But when you're an adult, why are you testing people? I used to tell people all the time, you test me, I'm failing on purpose. Test me. Because
no, but I mean adults, like full-grown
yeah.
adults, like in their 30s in relationships today.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Don't test me as an adult. Like as an adult, we should be past that and we should be able to communicate. The only reason you testing somebody is because you don't want to communicate exactly what it is you need or exactly what it is you desire. So you're seeing if they'll just do it without communicating with them.
Yeah, well, that's assuming that everybody knows how to communicate. A lot of adults don't know how to communicate. Not that they don't have the vocabulary like kids don't, or they don't know the words, but they don't know how to express themselves verbally. Like they just can't do it. So that's where it comes in. It's more of like, actions speak louder than words. I'm gonna watch and see what you're gonna do before I do anything or respond to you. More like that. But people don't know how to communicate these days. That's where all these problems is coming from. People don't know how to talk to each other.
And it could be related to trust. Because if somebody's always let you down, then now I'm testing you to make sure that you're going to really be there for me. I'm testing you to see if I can trust you. And then at the minute you fail my test, then I can't trust you. But that's emotional abuse in a relationship.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, and it says it sounds like they're failing no matter what they do. It's a trick question because the other person can't read your mind.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I think Suge hit something on there when it comes to a lot of people don't recognize that in their relationships of how emotionally and financially abusive somebody can become and using those things over you to keep you in the relationship. So using that as a way to manipulate you is definitely going down a dangerous path.
Yep.
Yeah.
But you know what else is interesting when it comes to communication too? We want people to be able to communicate, but then you get people who can't take those people that are straight, blunt, and truthful and real. It's like people can't take that sometimes. They can't take the direct communication. Like
blunt, truthful, and real is not always good communication.
It's not always, but I mean, just that person who is able to verbalize a thing or tell you the truth about a thing. Some people don't know how to take that in. Like earlier today, when I mentioned it earlier, but we started talking about something else. This guy on tonight's conversation, the girl basically asked, is it possible for you to like another woman more than your girlfriend or spouse? And he was like, oh, it's possible. But that don't mean I want to be with you. Usually that doesn't mean we want to be with you. That just means you filled the void at the time that I needed filled and you chose to make yourself small to fit into the space that I needed you in. And she was taken aback, like he was real bold with that answer. And I was like, he just told you that as the side chick, you're never going to be main. That's not what he's looking for. But people hear what they want to hear. He's like, I do like you more. That's all she heard.
It's funny because somebody responded to that on Twitter and said just because somebody speaks with conviction does not absolve them of accountability. And so him admitting like, oh, well, you're just a side chick, but yet you're not admitting that you're also doing something disrespectful to your partner absolves him from his accountability as well. So while she was getting checked, he needed to be checked too. They both needed to be checked.
Why are you in a relationship?
Yeah.
Well,
If your partner can meet your needs, why aren't you communicating that?
Now, Nakia, when you say that's their out, are you talking to the new thing that we just said, or the testing in relationships?
And Mika said, "It's not what you say, but how you say it." And I'll be very honest,
Yeah.
Mika. There's a lot of my clients that I do speak to, or have discussed about the way they say things. Like sometimes it isn't about what you say; it's how you say it and how you want your message and your goal to be reached. Sometimes we can't reach a goal because there is your tone, your rhythm, and how you say things get in the way of reaching the common goal of whatever you and your partner is trying to reach.
That's very true. Like I guess in the thing with how you say it too is intention versus impact. So I tell people now to clarify, and I think Keisha put me onto that, like intention versus impact. Whereas like I have my couples now clarify what your intention is sometimes when you're saying that, because if I heard it a kind of way, then it impacted me a kind of way, and it might have done the same thing to your spouse. So I kind of I clarify that, and I think that's been helpful in the couples counseling. But Nakia said that was for the testing.
Yeah, testing is there.
Yeah.
Some people, I was just doing some attachment style work with one of my clients, and in the anxious preoccupied style, people will tend to do a thing so that you can prove them right, so that they then can say, I was right about you all along, and I had a reason to feel that way, and now I'm out. So they'll do a thing to purposely get somebody to do something harmful or hurtful just so they can say, yep, see, I knew it. I knew that's how you were. So it's an excuse to get out of it, to disattach.
Sometimes it's a part of not sometimes, but like with the borderline personality, that's one of the traits is like you're so scared of abandonment, you create these these scenarios where somebody might abandon you, and then so it's kind of like you're abandoning the relationship before they can leave you. But then whenever it's time for them to leave, or whenever the relationship is over, it's like, okay, don't leave me. And so it can cause resentment. So there's this book called I Hate You, Don't Leave Me. And it helps understand like the borderline personality with when it comes to abandonment.
Yeah. All right. What other questions folks got? What else been going on?
Those are good talk about relationships.
It's always good talking about relationships.
So good.
I've been hearing it lately. I'm like, a test? Who did a test?
Yo, people do that. Like they would be like, I showed up. There was I think a guy on Twitter did that. He said the story about him showing up without his wallet just to see if his girl would pay for the dinner it was like their first date. And he was like, I didn't have my wallet, but he lied just to see if she was willing to do it or not. And he's like, she's been holding me down. That's how you hold. Like he was trying to make sure she wasn't trying to get him for his money. Or I'm like,
see, first of all, communicate clearly with me. Just say, will you pay for the first date, or can we go Dutch? If you say that, I respect that more than you trying to test me by saying I left my wallet.
Why not have that conversation first?
Then why you didn't go back and go get it when you knew you left it? And then that would annoy me. But me and Abraham, we went Dutch forever. Like there was no like, I'm gonna pay for you to do everything. Like we never had that. We just always was like, we going out to eat. I got me, you got you, because we were some broke little kids.
No, I was okay. That we were in different stages in life. We were young, broke, college kids. Y'all was in it we were in different phases. But when you have people now our age dating 30 plus years old, they're at a different stage in life, and it's like, I'm not broke. You're not broke. Like, so how does this work? What are the expectations? Is it expected that a man pays for the first date? That's traditional. Like people, that is the one thing I think that gets on my nerves more than anything. People talk too much about wanting traditional everything, but don't want to do traditional things. You can't have it both ways.
Pauletta paid for Denzel's first date.
Wasn't Denzel broke and struggling then? He was like a struggling actor.
Yeah, but look at it, it paid off for her.
Right. And that's fine. It's cool, but I'm just saying, don't like I also think that they probably like Pauletta's a pretty strong woman. I don't think that that's necessarily set totally traditional. They respect each other, and it might be a little bit more egalitarian, but either way, like if it's cool to do it, but don't again back to expectations. Why are you expecting a thing, or why are you testing me to see?
Well, what did Helen say? Was it no B Stokes?
Mm-hmm. She said she gonna fail.
After not telling me I had to pay before he asked me out. Sorry, if you ask me out, pay for me and vice versa. Okay, that's another thing. Who asked? If you ask me, I'm expecting you to pay. If I ask you, I'm gonna pay.
Okay, but we're talking about expectations again.
Right.
You expect that because of however you grew up or whatever you saw when you grew up, but everybody don't expect that. If
So
you ask me out to
somebody asks you that they're paying.
If somebody asks me out to do something, I'm going to be ready to pay if I need to pay. Like I'm not going to automatically expect like, oh, you asked me, so you're paying. Like in my mind, it's like we going Dutch until somebody says otherwise, and it ain't gonna be a problem.
I was
like
always trying to carry my money.
Me and Marcus, when we first started dating, we didn't even ask, we didn't talk about it. Like we would go somewhere and somebody would just pull out their wallet and pay, whether it was me or him, or whether we paid for each other. Like it was never a like, oh, you asked me out. Like now I'm nervous. I don't know if I should like say yes because I can't pay or what. Like I don't know. It was just never a thing. So it irritates me that people get so caught up in these little
stupid nuances.
Money. It's just so stupid to me. Like
I don't. People tie a lot to it though. They tie to it who you are as a person. Like they tie character to that. For
you know what my mom taught me when I went to prom? She was like, "Here." So I was going to prom, right? And the guy I was with, he paid for stuff. He just did. She was like, "Take this just in case he get mad because he wants something and you don't give it to him, or something happened and I don't want him to leave your ass on the side of the road." And like she was like, "Take this in case you need it." So I was always brought up to be kind of like, I mean, if you got to pay for yourself, you pay for yourself. Like you don't need everybody to like front you. So that's kind of how I lived, and I think it paid off. And why I am in a marriage like that is because I wasn't ready to bleed nobody, and he knew that I wasn't the person that's gonna be like, "What can you do for me? What can you do for me? What can you do for me?" It was just kind of like, I mean, I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I was always taught to carry my own money, but I'm just I guess that is a core belief. If I ask, I'm gonna pay. If you ask, you should pay. I'm gonna have my money just in case you don't. But it's just whoever asks.
Oh, Chrissy got a good comment. Got a good question.
Hold on, Chrissy is more in depth, so let's do that one last so we can spend some more time on it. I just want to say what B said real quick. She said, "I paid, but I wasn't happy about it. My husband and I never had that awkward moment because he's a Southern guy who is very chivalrous." Same B. I married a Southern chivalrous gentleman as well.
Yeah. My experience with Southern man has always been very, very nice. Very nice guy when I was hanging out with a Southern guy.
Mine from Baltimore.
Yours was living out the wire. He ain't on that.
No, actually, I've been very kept for a long time, unless I didn't want to be.
Hey, Patrice, it's okay to be late. It's all right.
Hey, Patrice.
Yes. Let me see. Okay, so Chrissy said, "It's been so many suicides within the last couple of years. Have y'all ever dealt with suicidal clients? And if so, how do you handle those situations?"
Mm-hmm.
I dealt with one today.
I work in an area where there's a school district, and there's been literally suicides, there've been protests and all that. I'm not even from that area, but there's a lot going on in my area with teenagers who've, taken their lives. So currently we are dealing with those things. That's part of now. Not all of us, well, we are, but you can specialize in crisis management and crisis intervention. Yeah. And so all of us have the proper training to address crisis intervention, but you can specialize in it. I personally specialize in it.
Yep.
So the first thing too, when you do get a client who is suicidal, is you have to do a risk assessment.
Mm-hmm.
So my risk assessment always consists of intent, means, and the severity of the thoughts, or what are you feeling right now. Can you leave? It depends on how they feel, if they can even leave your office that day. I've had people who could not leave my office, like where I'm like, okay, based on the things that you are telling me, I've given you ways to rectify your thoughts with me. I cannot have you leave today. And you can't physically put somebody into an institution, but if you need to, it can be strongly implicated that they need to go, and you might have to call somebody to get them there.
Mm-hmm.
Do they have access to their means? Like, so different people, as you know, I study gun violence. So the number one suicide, or the number one, I think, object that people use when it comes to men are guns. Women use more like pills, things that are non-lethal. Not saying that women don't use guns, but it's more likely that men use fatal things and women use non-lethal things.
Yeah, lethality. The lethality of the means is on my risk assessment. How lethal is the means? Because you got some people who will just say something like, "I'm just going to drive and hit a wall," or "I'm like," they'll say these things, and you have to really assess. Like, is this a moderate risk? Is this a high risk? Is this severe enough for me to try to not let you leave the office? Like Shug said, you can't force anybody. But I've actually had a client who was suicidal and attempted, and she called me. Now, the way it was set up when I worked at the group private practice I worked for, we were, in our paperwork, it said we were not a crisis center. We were not a 24-hour center. So if you had a situation, you had to call these numbers if it was after hours. Well, this client directly contacted me, and I was like, okay, I'm not about to tell her, call this number. I'm not, like, I didn't feel comfortable doing that. I sat with her on the phone. She called to be taken to a facility, and she kept in contact with me the whole time. And I was okay with that, because I was like, I can't be a therapist who tells you that I'm here and then just cut you off because it's outside of office hours. Like, it's real tricky for me. But with that first situation, and I also had a teenager who was suicidal, with those situations, it's like, I think a lot of therapists try to stick to the book and the training, and it's like, where is the human aspect? So I just couldn't bring myself to only do this, because my supervisor at the time was like, once she at the facility, you don't have to talk to her anymore. I'm like, huh? If she contacts me, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna talk to her. It's okay.
Well, what your supervisor probably meant is, once she's at the facility, she's not actually on your books. And so there are some implications with that, because if they are being treated by a facility, then they don't need the facility to treat them and you to be their counselor. Mm-hmm. So, and just because if something happens and the facility is telling them one thing and then you're telling them another thing, then there's liability. Mm-hmm. So not necessarily take out the human aspect, but you still have to ethically, where are you? So I've had somebody that's in a facility, and if you need to talk to your regular counselor, because I get it, then you can call me. But I always defer to, what are you learning right now, your coping skill that you're learning at the facility that you are registered to at this time.
Yeah. And that's what I did. I actually, we filled out an ROI, so that way me and the doctor at the facility could talk. So we had the paperwork filled out. So it was kind of like we talked to each other, and she only wanted to talk to me because she already built that relationship with me. That rapport was established. So, that happened in that way. And then before they would even release her, she had to have an appointment set with me. So they were like, you have to have an appointment set with the therapist before we release you.
Absolutely.
So it was like, I was going to make sure I did it the proper way by reaching out to her doctor, having that ROI filled out. But I wasn't going to just say, no, you're there at the facility, so we'll talk when you get out. No, I wasn't going to do that. Oh, that's a good question.
Mm-hmm. I can take that one.
Patrice.
Tasha Mac.
I can take that one.
Hi, Tasha. Hey, girl.
Have y'all seen an increase in Black women with feelings of ending it all? Not sure if this has been asked yet. So, if you, according to research, Black women have a high rate of persistent depressive disorder, which means that depression is longer than your typical clinical depression. So, that would be almost up to 2 years. Up to 2 years, they have depression, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're suicidal. However, there has been a rise in suicide among Black girls. And from 2007 to 2019, there's been a 182% increase in suicide attempts among our young girls. So I'm assuming that that can be kind of going along with them going into adulthood as well. I haven't seen any like particularly dramatic increase, but there are Black women who have engaged in it that we've seen like on a celebrity status, like the what's her name? She was a beauty queen, like a lawyer, and
Oh, I know who you're talking about. I can't remember her name.
yeah,
No.
she took her life. So we've seen some public ones. I'm not saying that Black women don't have suicidal ideation because they can, and that's different from suicidal attempts. So I just wanted to put that out there. Black women can have fleeting suicide. So I would say there's an increase among our youth mostly. That's where a lot of the research is coming from, but that does not mean Black women don't have that ideation. I don't know if y'all have read any like newer research on that, but I see more with adolescent Black girls.
Yeah.
I haven't. I know that's your field, but like that's your specialty. But I did want to clarify what active and passive suicidal ideation is, because I had to clarify that just today. You know, some people like to say, well, if I didn't wake up, it would just be great. You know what I mean? I would go on and everything would be fine. That's called passive suicidal ideation, and that's typical. If you have depression, suicidal ideation is like eating beans and cornbread. It's like when you have one, you can expect to have the other. With depression, some people think about suicide. It's just what it is. But you still have to ask the question. So the passive suicide is like, if I didn't wake up, things will be good. Active suicidal ideation is when I go home, I'm probably going to end it all. And one of them is a little bit more imminent and more urgent than the other one, which is the passive one is more urgent.
I saw that increase number that you gave, Keish, about the 180 something percent increase. I recently saw that number.
It's crazy, ain't it?
That's crazy. But I do think it's more in our youth as opposed to Black women. But I will say, for just my experience, I have seen it probably the most in my Black women clients, which honestly shocked me a little bit, but then I felt like, well, they probably never even been able to open up about that because that's not something that our community believes is the case. So,
well, Patrice said she heard people say, I don't have the time to commit suicide. And I just talked about that in my psycho ed. Don't nobody got time to be depressed.
Right.
Listen, I heard somebody say that.
How much do you think social media plays into that number? Well, if you're talking about adolescents, I actually just went to the African American Behavioral Health Conference back in April when they talked about the social media, how it plays in adolescent suicide. And I would say that it does play a lot into it. However, they did say that cyberbullying has become stable, like that has been just the same, but like in person, like in school, bullying has increased, which has increased, a lot of these dysregulation, behavioral and emotional dysregulation that we see. But typically our teenagers now look to social media for community, for connection. And so even though it's a double-edged sword. So even though it could be something that could definitely play a part of their mental health, it is also something where they go for support.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
You said the bullying aspect in the psycho ed that I just did, I think a week ago, it did say that African American women experience high levels of bullying in school, especially in states like North Dakota and Montana. And actually, I know some cases personally where people had to be moved out of the schools in Montana because the bullying is so bad because of being a minority and looking a certain way and not feeling like everybody else. And so that causes higher rates of suicide.
Suicidal ideation and self-harm. You'll see self-harm increased. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Y'all had some good ones tonight.
Oh, making us pull out the research.
Y'all had some good stuff tonight.
We actually like pulling out the research because we like to stick to mental health topics, and mental health topics are juicy in itself. So thank y'all. Thanks. And Chrissy is in grad school right now, so she's like pulling out all the big guns. Chrissy, we probably be writing papers for Chrissy.
Wait, which one is that? Which one is
Christina Benton?
Christina Benton. Yep.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, the suicide and stuff is crazy for us. Oh, and just a little bit of information y'all didn't ask, but I'm gonna give it to you anyway. Black men have had an epidemic of suicide since 1972, just so y'all know.
I heard that in your TikTok. I was like, dang, that was something even
It's a violent thing that has been going on. And the number one pairing to suicidal ideation for Black men is police abuse.
Well, the best advice we have for someone who is unable to access healthcare, and this is going to go directly into Black men, I think, number one, we need to take care of each other. We don't take care of each other enough. There's always this Black men against Black women thing, and I hate it. It makes my skin crawl. So just taking care of each other as a culture, we have a collectivist culture, and I think we need to get back to that. That's number one. And then number two, if you are unable to access healthcare, there are centers. There are places to go that you can access healthcare. Like if you're a child of an addict, you can go to Al-Anon or Nar-Anon, or of any addict, you can go to Al-Anon or Nar-Anon, and those are like little forms of therapy in itself, group therapy. And there's also churches that actually have group therapies in the church. So looking up free resources is always helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
And there are free resources out there, contrary to popular belief.
Yep. NAMI hosts stuff like in churches and stuff for free. So y'all can go to those groups like Auntie Shug was saying.
And just because I know you more than the other aunties do, the idea of church might throw you off, but I even do a mental health class at the church I'm at. And it's more so that I know you're going to automatically think, oh, there's going to be a spiritual element to it. Not always. So there are those free resources that don't have that attachment if that's not what you're exactly looking for. But I do want to say, be careful with certain online platforms. There's been a lot of discussion about issues with like BetterHelp and some of these online platforms where you find these therapists working through them. So be careful with that. Always vet your resources, but there are a lot of free resources.
So Patrice, I wanted to address your question personally. What she's asking is, do y'all know any Black therapists that can serve a military spouse overseas? Yes. First of all, and you might have already done this because this is the blanket answer, right? Everybody's going to say go to Military One Source. If you go to Military One Source, they can match you with a counselor. Also, there are counseling platforms because as a military spouse overseas, if I'm not mistaken, you may not need a referral. I think the active duty member is the only one that needs a referral. But let me personally, unless anybody else has any intel on that, I can look up some stuff on that. And if you would inbox the clinical cookout on Facebook.
Yeah.
Do y'all have any intel on that?
I'm just wondering because I've actually talked with her about this before. I'm just wondering if it will matter for a military spouse. It shouldn't. You're right, Shug. It actually shouldn't. But if she sees someone, does it matter where they are? Like, you know how we're licensed in certain states? Will that matter?
I asked that question in my on my group supervision, and I don't remember what the answer was.
It depends on what state you are in. What state are you in, if I can ask? And we have to go after this, but what state are you in?
She's overseas in Japan right now, I believe.
Okay, not what state are you in. What state is your home of record? Or your what state do you pay taxes to? What's your state outside of being in Japan?
Oh, yeah.
Honestly, I don't even think my group supervision actually knew that answer, though, because we weren't military, so we didn't.
If she's in Illinois, then you can go on Psychology Today and look for a counselor in Illinois and start there. And you can look actually through the Rolodex of counselors and see who's Black, see who takes TRICARE, and that's the first place to start.
Yeah, that is true. Yep.
Yeah, Military One Source.
Yeah, we use Military One Source. Yep. Tasha,
right,
Grace Chapel Church free therapy. You do not have to be a member. That's good to know. Tasha's in Colorado. I have to change counselors with every state I've been in. So that's good to know. B is also military. She's a military spouse. So she's had to change counselors every time she goes to a different state. Damn.
And she
Yeah,
got
a
her.
lot of states won't allow you to practice or do therapy across state lines, but there are some states that like working on this compact counseling, something like that, where you can do. And I think a part of that compact thing has military included, because a lot of therapists are saying, like, when my military people move, I have to cut off my services with them, and that's messed up.
So
some states are working through that too, so that you're able to continue and follow them.
Yeah.
But Patrice, if you can't find anything, just I would say go on the clinical cookout anyway. I'll still be on the lookout for you, and I'll do more research for you. You were wrapping it up, Amber. Go ahead, girl.
You're good. No, I was just gonna say this was nice, but we do have to go, y'all. So we'll see y'all on when's our next thing? Wednesday.
Well, y'all will get content Monday, like normal, Monday, Tuesday, then the episode Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Thank y'all.
Oh, wait, before we go, can you run everybody through our content, like our weekdays and what's released?
Yes. So what we do is we release something every day. Mondays is usually dedicated to Auntie Shug. So whatever, we've been doing themes. So what's our theme next week, Amber? I don't even remember.
We have something, but it might change. So let's just stick
We
to
didn't even say it. So we have a theme. We've been having things. We've done black hair. We've done a couple other things.
My kid.
Not my kid. Black people don't do that. So we pick the theme, and then everything that week, the content goes with the theme. So Monday, you'll hear from Auntie Shug. Tuesday, you get a TikTok from Auntie Keish. Wednesday is the episode. Thursday is something with Auntie Amber, usually back to the kids. And then Friday is me, your friendly neighborhood therapist, and everything revolves around the theme for that week. So that's what we've been doing for y'all, so that y'all can get content and information throughout the week.
Yeah, so check it out. If you miss a day, go back and look at it, because it all ties together. You don't want to miss any information.
If you're on TikTok, I'm on TikTok each.
Yep. I'm on TikTok as well. So y'all just look for that content, and also share. If you know somebody needs to hear this information, share the post. You can share this live. Once it's posted, you can share it on your page. Just share, spread the positivity. I keep telling people you cannot say you want positivity and not support positivity. So support something positive.
That's very true.
All right. Well, bye, everybody. Thank y'all for the kind words.
Thanks, Tasha.
Bye.
Thanks, Patrice.